Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going back in time with Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
But not just any meditations. We're using Gregory Hayes's translation.
Very good translation.
We're going to figure out who this philosopher-king was by going through his personal writings. And I can't wait to dig in and see what we can find.
It's going to be fascinating. I think Meditations is so interesting because it was never meant for an audience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just his own notes.
Wow.
Just jotting down his reflections.
So it's like we're getting a
super private
glimpse.
Unfiltered glimpse into the mind of a Roman emperor who's grappling with, life's big questions, just like you and me.
Yeah, okay, so we have this Roman emperor keeping a personal journal. Why should we care about that centuries later?
Well, for starters, Marcus Aurelius was ruling during the Pax Romana.
Okay.
Which was a time of great prosperity for the Roman Empire.
Right.
But there were all these cracks beneath the surface. Wars, plagues, internal power struggles.
Oh, wow.
And in Meditations, we see Marcus trying to make sense of all of it.
So it's not just like, a historical curiosity. This is actually like a human story.
Yeah.
About dealing with the pressures of leadership, the anxieties of life.
Yeah.
And his answer to all of this was Stoicism.
Yeah, Stoicism really profoundly shaped his thinking.
Okay.
And it's so interesting to see because Stoicism really emphasizes virtue, reason, living in harmony with nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's about focusing on what you can control.
Like what?
Your thoughts and your actions.
Right, which is something that people really struggle with today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we all face situations that we can't control.
Yeah, totally. So how did Marcus Aurelius, this powerful emperor, actually apply Stoicism? Like, did it actually help him run an empire?
Yeah, well, that's what's so cool about Meditations. We see him struggling with these ideas.
Yeah, trying to put it into practice.
Trying to reconcile them with, the demands of leadership with his own emotions. He wasn't just spouting dogma. He was living it.
Oh, wow. So it's like we're actually seeing him struggle with it.
Yeah, you really see that he's struggling with it and finding strength from it, too.
That's so interesting. And you mentioned Meditations are personal notes. Did he ever mention, this contrast between his public life and his private reflections?
Oh, he did. He does. He has one note where he actually describes his own character as dark, womanish, obstinate.
Whoa, wait a minute. An emperor wrote that about himself.
Imagine an emperor writing that about himself.
I can't even imagine.
It's such a stark contrast to this image of the all-powerful Stoic ruler.
Right.
It shows that even he struggled with self-doubt.
Yeah.
With his flaws.
So relatable.
Makes him much more relatable.
Okay, so facing all these challenges, how did Marcus Aurelius seek guidance or solace?
Well, Stoicism really played a key role in that.
Okay.
But it wasn't just blind adherence to these principles.
Really?
Yeah, we see glimpses of him questioning traditional Stoicism.
Wow.
Exploring a more personal relationship with the gods. It's like he's trying to tailor Stoicism to his own unique experience.
Wow, so really make it his own.
Make it his own. Yeah, exactly.
But who are the key figures that shaped his thinking? I know you mentioned Socrates earlier.
Yeah, Socrates was a huge influence.
Okay.
Marcus really admired Socrates' emphasis on virtue, strength of character.
Especially facing death.
Especially in the face of death.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, Marcus faced threats all the time, both external and internal.
Right.
And he saw Socrates as this model for how to live and die philosophically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he's really drawing on these, giants of the past to navigate his own present.
Yeah.
Are there any other people that come to mind?
He was also fascinated by Heraclitus.
Heraclitus, I've heard that name.
That no man ever steps in the same river twice.
Yeah. Yeah, everything changes.
Everything is in flux, yeah.
It's like a mind-bending idea.
Yeah, but Marcus was really drawn to this idea of constant change.
Okay.
It resonated with his experience, facing these shifting landscapes of power, war, even plague.
So he saw the world as like a river.
Yeah.
Always flowing, always changing.
Always changing, never the same from one moment to the next.
Wow.
Which I think is a pretty profound insight.
Right.
For anyone, not just an emperor.
That's what's so interesting about this. This philosopher-king wasn't just, reciting dogma. He was actually using philosophy to make sense of not just his personal life,
right,
but the state of the world,
right,
the Roman Empire.
Exactly. And that's why Meditations, I think, is still so relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
He was grappling with questions that we all face.
Right.
How to live a good life, how to deal with suffering, how to find meaning in a world that often feels very chaotic.
Yeah, totally. But, we keep saying these were private thoughts.
Right.
Imagine if we read someone's diary and we found the reflections. It's kind of wild.
It makes you wonder how honest he's really being.
Oh yeah, does it make it more genuine or less genuine because we know he wasn't writing for an audience?
Right.
That's interesting to think about.
It's fascinating.
But how did these notes even survive?
That's a mystery.
Really?
Yeah. Scholars have different theories, but we don't know for sure how they survived all these centuries.
It's like fate intervened.
Yeah, like fate intervened.
It's to preserve these incredible insights.
Yeah, and they're interesting notes too.
Yeah.
Because they vary from these polished, almost essay-like reflections
Right.
to these kind of fragmented, cryptic sentences.
Like that dark, womanish, obstinate.
Right, exactly.
What do we even make of that?
I think that's the beauty of it.
Okay.
It's like an archaeological dig.
Interesting.
You have these fragments, and you try to piece them together.
Oh, wow.
You use the historical context and what we know about Marcus's life in influences.
So even the seemingly random stuff
Yeah.
actually has value.
Has value, exactly.
Okay, so we've established that he's very philosophical.
Yeah.
But was he a good emperor?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
I mean, you have to remember, he was operating within the constraints of Roman politics.
Right.
He wasn't, this philosopher-king ruling with perfect wisdom.
Sure.
He had to make tough decisions,
Right.
deal with power struggles, navigate a complex bureaucracy.
Sounds a lot like today's world.
Right.
So how did he balance his philosophical ideals with the realities of power?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because on the one hand, he did try to bring his Stoic principles to bear on his leadership.
How so?
Well, he really emphasized justice, fairness, working for the common good.
Okay.
And there's even evidence that he pushed for policies to help the less fortunate,
Oh, wow. Like what?
like freeing slaves, protecting orphans.
So he really was trying to walk the walk.
Yeah, he wasn't just talking the talk.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder how Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, dealt with the growing presence of Christianity in his time.
Right.
It was still a relatively new religion back then.
It was a new religion and actually illegal for much of the 2nd century.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And while Marcus didn't seem to initiate any widespread persecution of Christians, there were definitely instances of violence against Christians
Wow.
under his rule.
Okay.
So it's a really complex issue, especially when viewed through our modern understanding of religious freedom.
So even a philosopher-king
Yeah.
grapples with these difficult choices.
Right.
I'm curious, did Marcus himself ever mention Christianity?
Interestingly, there's only one direct reference to Christianity in the Meditations.
Oh, wow.
And even that, some scholars think might be a later addition.
So it wasn't like a big...
It suggests that he was aware of it, but it wasn't a major preoccupation.
Okay, so not a top priority. Understandable.
Yeah.
All this talk about Stoicism is making me want to learn more.
Yeah.
Can we break it down even further? What are some key takeaways from Meditations?
Yeah, one that always stands out to me is his emphasis on controlling your perceptions.
Okay.
He famously said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them,"
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
which is really about how much power we have to choose how we react,
Even when things are rough.
even when things are rough. Yeah.
It reminds me of that saying, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like Stoicism in a nutshell.
Stoicism in a nutshell. Yeah.
He also talks a lot about interconnectedness.
It does. He talks a lot about that. Seeing the world as this web where everything is linked.
Yeah.
Like a city where everyone is a citizen.
And that means that we have a responsibility
Right. With that comes a responsibility to act for the common good.
to treat others justly.
To treat others justly, yeah.
Which goes back to that Stoic belief that we should live in harmony with nature.
Right. Recognizing that we're all part of this larger system.
Are there any other key principles from Meditations that stand out to you?
His thoughts on death are always very powerful.
Okay.
He writes, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live,"
Wow.
which is such a powerful reminder that death is a natural part of life,
Mm-hmm.
and that our focus should be on living fully and virtuously in the time that we have.
Yeah, don't waste your life worrying about death. Just, live a life worth living.
Right.
I think we're just scratching the surface here. To really get it, we need to dive into the text itself.
Absolutely. I agree.
Please.
Let's explore some specific passages
Yeah, let's get to the good stuff.
from Meditations
Okay.
and see how Marcus applies these Stoic principles in practice.
Okay.
Because remember, these aren't just abstract theories, they're tools for living.
Tools for living. I like that.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so let's open up Meditations and see what gems we can find.
Okay.
One passage that always really strikes me is from Book 2.
Okay.
Marcus writes, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly."
Wow. Okay, that's
Not a very positive.
that's not the most positive affirmation to start the day.
Yeah.
But it sounds like even back then, people had to deal with difficult personalities.
Yeah,
It's almost comforting in a way.
it is.
Yeah.
And it's how he follows it up.
He says, they are like this because they can't tell good from evil.
So he's not judging them.
Right.
He's choosing to understand them.
He's choosing to understand them.
Kind of recognize their limitations.
Recognize their limitations, exactly.
So he's practicing empathy.
Practicing empathy, yeah.
Even with people who are being difficult.
Even with people who are being difficult.
It's a powerful reminder that we have a choice
We do have a choice.
in how we perceive others.
We do.
But is he saying that we should just accept bad behavior?
No, not at all. Stoicism isn't about being passive.
Okay.
It's about taking responsibility for our own reactions.
Right.
Remember, he talks about focusing on what we can control, our thoughts and our actions.
Mm-hmm.
We can't control how others behave, but we can control how we respond to them.
Right. So instead of letting someone's bad behavior ruin our day,
Yeah,
we can choose to respond differently
respond differently.
with reason and compassion.
Reason and compassion, exactly.
And I think there are so many applications for this in our own lives.
Oh, tons of them.
Think about the workplace,
Your relationship.
friends, family. How often do we let other people's negativity dictate our mood?
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Are there any other passages from Meditations that talk about this idea of, taking control of our perceptions?
Yeah, there's a great one in Book 4.
Okay.
He writes, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been.
Okay, that's,
It's a little radical.
it's a little out there,
Okay.
but I see what he's saying.
What do you think he's saying?
I think he's saying that our perception of harm is what actually causes us to suffer,
Right.
not the event itself.
It's not the event itself. It's our interpretation of it.
He's highlighting the power of our mind.
That's the power of our minds, yeah.
It's not about denying that bad things happen.
Right.
It's just about recognizing that we have a choice in how we frame them.
Yeah. How we let them affect us.
That's such a powerful insight. It's about taking ownership of our own narrative,
Of our own narrative, yeah.
not letting external events dictate our inner state.
Exactly.
Wow, it reminds me of that quote from Viktor Frankl.
Oh, yeah.
The Holocaust survivor, he
Yeah.
said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom."
Powerful quote.
So powerful, and it shows how these Stoic principles are still so relevant today,
Yeah, yeah.
even in the face of unimaginable suffering.
Yeah, it's really a testament to their enduring wisdom.
Okay, so it's not just about dealing with negativity.
Right.
Marcus also uses a lot of imagery to illustrate how we should approach life in general.
He does.
I notice he talks a lot about nature.
Yeah.
He has this bit about nature's inadvertence in baking bread
Yeah.
and ripening figs. What's he getting at there?
Well, that's from Book 3, and it's this brilliant analogy.
Okay.
He's observing how nature just effortlessly produces abundance
Okay.
without striving or complaining.
Yep.
And it's a metaphor for how we should approach life.
So kind of accepting what is.
Accepting what is.
On with the flow.
Going with the flow rather than resisting.
Right. So surrendering to the natural order of things.
Surrendering to the natural order.
Trusting that there's a wisdom
There's a wisdom there,
in the way things unfold.
even if we don't always understand it.
Even if we don't understand it, that's a hard one.
It is a hard one.
But he uses this nature imagery throughout Meditations.
He does, yeah.
Rivers, trees, animals.
Yeah.
All reminders of our interconnectedness,
Mm-hmm.
the harmony that exists
Right.
when we align ourselves with nature.
You've hit on a key point.
Okay.
Marcus Aurelius, like other Stoics, believed that humans are part of nature,
Okay.
not separate from it.
Which is so different from how we view nature today.
It is different.
We think of it as something to be controlled.
To be controlled or exploited, yeah.
So he's really finding wisdom
yeah,
in the natural world,
in the natural world.
using it as a guide for how to live.
And by observing the rhythms and cycles of the natural world,
Okay.
we can gain insights into how to live a more harmonious and fulfilling life.
Okay. I'm seeing how these Stoic principles are really like woven through his thinking.
Yeah, they're living through everything.
His observations about nature, his interactions with people, even his reflections on death.
Absolutely.
Right.
And speaking of death, he uses nature to confront this reality as well.
Oh, how so?
Well, in Book 4, he writes, "Time is a river, a violent current of events, glimpsed once and already carried past us, and another follows and is gone."
Okay, that's
Bit terrifying.
a little bit terrifying, but also beautiful.
Yeah,
It's a good way of putting it. It really captures how fleeting life is.
it does.
It does.
And it echoes that idea from Heraclitus.
Right.
That everything is in constant flux.
We're all just part of this river.
Right, we're all swept along by the current.
He's not being morbid, though.
Is it? He's not. It's more like an acceptance
An acceptance.
of the natural order of things.
Like, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
There's no fighting it.
And by accepting that reality,
Yeah.
we can free ourselves from the fear of death.
Right.
And focus on living fully in the present moment.
Wow, this is making me rethink my whole perspective on time and mortality.
Yeah.
It's like a framework for appreciating the present moment.
It is.
Not taking our time here for granted.
Right. And that's a really powerful gift.
It is.
Be able to shift our perspective.
Yeah.
To see the world through a lens of acceptance and gratitude.
Even in the face of death.
Even in the face of death.
Well, you know, we keep talking about these Stoic principles.
Right.
I think it's time we dig into those a little deeper.
I agree.
What about this Stoic idea of the 3 disciplines?
Oh, yeah. The 3 disciplines.
You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Perception, action, and will.
It feels like it's a key to understanding Marcus's whole approach to life.
They really are the foundation of Stoic practice.
Okay, and these sound pretty simple on the surface.
They do.
But I'm sensing there's more to it.
Oh, there's definitely more to it.
Meets the eye.
Stoicism isn't just about intellectual understanding.
Okay.
It's about putting these principles into practice.
So let's break them down.
Let's do it.
One by one.
Okay.
What do you think the discipline of perception is all about?
What do you think it's all about?
Well, based on what we've talked about, I'd say it's about seeing things clearly,
Okay.
objectively,
Mm-hmm.
without letting our emotions or biases cloud our judgment.
You're exactly right. It's about training our minds to see things for what they are without adding our own interpretations or judgments.
So being present,
Being present,
being mindful,
mindful,
observing our thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
without getting swept away. That's exactly it.
Okay, so it's about cultivating a clear
Yeah.
and unbiased perspective.
Unbiased perspective.
That allows us to respond,
Respond,
not just react.
not just react.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So we've got perception,
Perception.
seeing things as they are.
Okay.
What about action?
Action. What role does that play?
Well, the discipline of action is all about aligning our actions with nature,
Okay.
recognizing our interconnectedness, and acting for the common good.
So it's not just about our inner state.
It's not just about our inner state.
It's about how we translate that into our actions
Yeah.
that contribute to a greater good.
Get it? Stoics believe that humans are social beings by nature.
Okay.
We have a responsibility to act justly, to contribute to the well-being of others.
It's about recognizing that our actions have ripple effects,
They do.
impacting not just ourselves,
Right.
but everyone around us.
The whole web of existence.
And that goes back to Marcus's idea of the world as a city,
It does.
right? Where we're all citizens
Are all citizens
working together
for the common good.
for the common good.
Okay, so we've got perception, action.
Perception, action.
And the last one is will. What do you think will is about?
Well, given what we've talked about with accepting what we can't control, I would say that will is about surrendering to what is
Okay.
letting go of our attachments
Right.
to certain outcomes.
You're on the right track.
Okay.
The discipline of will is about accepting what's beyond our control,
Okay.
finding peace in the present moment, and choosing our battles wisely.
So it's about recognizing that there are things in life we just can't change
We can't change it.
and finding a sense of serenity
Serenity
in that acceptance.
in that acceptance. Yeah.
It's not about giving up or being passive.
No, it's not about giving up.
It's about choosing our battles,
Choosing your battles.
focusing our energy on what we can influence,
What we can influence.
and letting go of the rest.
Letting go of the rest.
This is really making me rethink my approach to life. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to control everything,
It is.
to resist what's
To
happening.
resist what's happening.
But Stoicism is like a different path,
It is a different
a
path.
path of acceptance,
Acceptance.
inner peace.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. It's not about limitation.
It's
about empowerment.
empowerment.
It's about recognizing our agency
Our agency.
within the constraints of reality
Within the constraints of reality.
and choosing to act with wisdom and virtue,
Wisdom and virtue.
no matter what we're facing.
No matter what you're facing.
This has been so helpful.
Yeah,
I
well,
feel
sure.
like I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
Like how Stoicism is not just a set of rules, but a way of life.
It is a way of life. A way of being in the world.
But I think it's time we shift gears a bit
Okay.
and explore another fascinating aspect of Marcus Aurelius's life.
Let's do it.
You know, as we've been going through Marcus Aurelius's meditations,
Yeah.
I keep thinking about how lucky we are that these reflections even survive.
I know. It's amazing.
Like, imagine
Yeah.
someone finding your personal journal like centuries from now.
Right. And thinking about what they would think
Yeah.
about us based on what we wrote.
And it's not like he was writing a self-help book
No.
or trying to build some legacy.
They had no idea anyone would ever read this.
Right. These were
Private thoughts.
private thoughts
Yeah.
for his own benefit.
Just for him.
It makes them so real.
It makes him so compelling.
Yeah.
You can feel his authenticity, his vulnerability.
Yeah. And he's not trying to impress anyone.
Yeah.
He's just
trying to figure things out.
trying to figure things out.
Grappling with life.
Trying to be a good person.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Trying to live a good life.
Yeah. Why do you think Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism still resonate with people today?
I think it's because he was dealing with these timeless human concerns.
Like what?
How do we deal with adversity? How do we find meaning and purpose? How do we live a life of virtue? I mean, these are questions everyone asks.
Totally. It's like he's talking to us across time.
Across the centuries, offering guidance.
Yeah. And what I find so inspiring is that he doesn't act like he has all the answers.
No, he's not preaching.
He's sharing his journey.
He's right there with us.
Figuring it out as he goes.
Trying to figure it out, yeah.
And that makes his insights so much more powerful.
So much more relatable.
Relatable, yeah.
Human.
He's not just talking about stoicism.
Right.
He's living it.
He's putting it into practice.
He's ruling an empire, facing wars, plagues,
internal rebellions.
trying to keep his inner peace.
Trying to stay true to his values.
It's like he's reminding himself in meditations to focus on what he can control.
What he can control.
Accept what he can't.
Accept what he can't control.
Always choose the path of reason.
The path of reason.
Of wisdom.
Wisdom.
It's pretty inspiring.
It is inspiring. Yeah.
We all have that capacity, I think, to cultivate that inner strength.
Yeah.
But how can we actually apply these Stoic principles?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. How do we take this wisdom and make it practical?
Well, one thing that Marcus really emphasizes is mindfulness.
Okay.
Paying attention to our thoughts, our perception.
Without judgment.
Without judgment, yeah.
Remember that quote. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed.
Don't feel harmed and you haven't been.
Yeah, it's all about taking control.
It's about recognizing that.
Of how we talk to ourselves.
Our perceptions shape our reality.
Our perceptions shape our reality. So true.
Yeah.
So instead of getting carried away by our emotions, just reacting, we can pause.
Awesome.
Take a breath.
Take a breath.
And choose a more reasoned response.
A more reasoned response.
And that's where the discipline of will comes in.
That's where will comes in.
Right.
Yeah. Accepting what is.
Accepting what is.
Surrendering to the flow.
Surrendering to the flow.
Yeah. Recognizing that some things we just can't control.
I can't control.
And that's okay.
Finding peace in that.
Finding peace.
It doesn't mean we give up.
It doesn't mean you give up.
Right.
It means you shift your focus.
Shift our focus to what we can influence.
What you can influence, exactly.
And then there's the discipline of action.
Right.
Action, choosing to act virtuously.
Choosing to act in accordance with your value.
According to our values, yeah. Working for the common good.
For the common good.
Recognizing that we're all connected.
We are all connected, yeah.
What we do affects everyone.
It does. It really does.
You know, before we wrap up,
yeah,
I want to go back to something we talked about before.
Okay.
The fact that meditations was never meant for an audience.
Right.
Does that change how we interpret it?
It's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
I think it makes the text more intimate.
Intimate? How so?
It's like we're eavesdropping on his private thoughts.
Oh, wow.
His struggles.
It's like we're peeking into his diary.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes his honesty even more striking.
It does. It really does.
He's not holding back.
He's not trying to present a perfect image.
Right. He's willing to talk about his flaws,
Yeah.
his doubts.
His struggles, yeah.
Makes him so human.
It makes him so relatable.
It makes me wonder,
Yeah.
is it more genuine because it was private
Right.
or less genuine?
Because he didn't intend for anyone to see it.
It's a really interesting question.
It is.
And I think it speaks to the power of self-reflection,
Yeah.
of taking the time to think about our own lives,
To examine our own beliefs.
to grapple with the big questions.
Yeah, big questions.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
If I had to pick just one thing,
Yeah,
it would be to remember that you always have a choice
with choice.
in how you respond to things.
Okay.
Don't let external events control your inner state.
Mm,
Cultivate wisdom, practice virtue,
okay.
and live a life worthy of your highest ideals.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And on that note,
Yeah.
I want to thank you
Well, thank you.
for joining me on this journey
This was fun.
into the world of Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
Meditations.
Absolutely.
I hope you found it insightful,
I hope so.
thought-provoking.
Me too.
And if you're interested in learning more,
Yeah.
pick up a copy of Meditations.
Do it.
Start your own journey.
Yeah.
Until next time,
Until next time,
keep seeking wisdom, keep asking questions,
keep diving deep.
and keep diving deep